Imagine raising two kids with every ounce of love you had, sacrificing sleep, savings, and sanity, only to watch them turn cold, change the locks on your lifelong home, and sell it out from under you while you rot in a Medicaid facility. This is my true story, America. My name is Eleanor Hayes. For 42 years, our little house on Maple Street in Ohio was our everything. Then Tom died, grief hit, and my own children, Michael and Sarah, saw opportunity instead of pain. They forged papers, they lied to doctors, they pocketed $280,000 from the sale of the only home I'd ever known, left me homeless at 70. But I fought back. This isn't just betrayal, it's a warning. Watch if you dare, because the people who should protect you might be the ones planning your downfall. Hit play. The truth hurts, but silence hurts more.
My name is Eleanor Hayes, and if you ever drive down Maple Street in quiet little Willow Creek, Ohio, just a 20-minute stretch from Dayton, you'll see it still standing there, number 417. White clapboard siding that's faded to a soft gray over the years, black shutters hanging a little crooked on the upstairs windows, a wide front porch with that old wooden swing creaking in the breeze. It's nothing fancy, never was, but for 42 years, that house was the beating heart of our family. It was where Tom and I built a life from scratch, where our children took their first steps, said their first words, and later slammed doors in teenage anger. It was where we laughed until our sides hurt over burnt dinners, and where we cried quietly in the dark when life got too heavy. We bought it in the spring of 1982. I was 28, Tom 31, both of us bone-tired from scraping by in a one-bedroom apartment downtown. He'd just gotten promoted to shift supervisor at the Ford plant in Moraine. Steady pay, benefits, overtime if you wanted it. We scraped together the down payment from savings, a small inheritance from my aunt, and a loan from Tom's uncle who always believed in us. Closing day, we walked through the empty rooms holding hands like kids. The floors were scratched hardwood, the kitchen had avocado green appliances straight out of the 70s, and the backyard stretched out like a promise, big enough for a swing set, a vegetable garden, maybe even a dog someday. We didn't have much furniture yet, but we had dreams. Big ones.
Michael came first, in '84, loud, curious, always asking why about everything. He'd toddle out to the garage and help Tom fix the lawnmower, handing him wrenches he could barely hold. By 5, he was building forts in the backyard with every stick and blanket he could drag outside. Sharp as a tack, that boy. Teachers said he could be anything: doctor, lawyer, engineer. He'd sit at the kitchen table drawing skyscrapers and cars that flew, telling us he was going to make millions so you guys never have to work again. Tom would ruffle his hair and say, "Just make sure you come home for Sunday dinner, hotshot." Sarah arrived 3 years later, in '87, tiny and perfect with those big hazel eyes that looked right through you. She was quieter than her brother, but stubborn in her own way. If she decided she wanted to wear her pink tutu to the grocery store, no amount of reasoning would change her mind. She'd cling to my leg while diner, then fall asleep in the booth with ketchup on her cheek. At night, she'd crawl into our bed during thunderstorms, whispering, "Mommy, don't let the lightning get us." I'd pull her close and promise the house would keep us safe. And it did.
We never had extra money. Tom pulled doubles at the plant. I worked nights and weekends at the diner. Pancakes, coffee, tips in quarters and crumpled ones. We painted every room ourselves. I remember the summer of '89. Tom up on the ladder doing the living room ceiling while Michael supervised from below, Sarah napping in her playpen. Paint speckled our hair, our clothes, even the dog we finally got, a mutt named Buddy who'd chewed everything. We laughed so hard we cried when Tom slipped and splattered white on his face like war paint. Those were good days. Simple, full. The kids grew up in that house. Michael's high school graduation party in the backyard, string lights, burgers on the grill, all his friends sprawled on blankets. Sarah's sweet 16 when she insisted on baking her own cake and it came out lopsided but tasted like heaven. Christmases with the tree crammed in the corner, ornaments we'd collected since our first year married. Thanksgivings where the table groaned under turkey and too many sides. Arguments, too. Doors slamming, raised voices about curfews and college applications, but always, by morning, we'd find each other in the kitchen. Coffee brewing. Forgiveness, unspoken but understood. Then came 2018. Tom started coughing in the spring. Nothing dramatic at first, just a tickle he blamed on Ohio pollen. By summer, it was blood. Stage 4 lung cancer. The doctor said 6 to 12 months, maybe less. We sat in that sterile office holding hands so tight my knuckles turned white. Driving home, neither of us spoke. When we pulled into the driveway, the house looked the same, porch swings swaying gently, but everything felt different, smaller, fragile. The kids came running. Michael flew in from Chicago, where he'd landed a finance job after college. Sarah drove up from Cincinnati, quitting her waitressing gig for a week to be here. They took turns sitting with Tom in the hospital, then at home when hospice brought the bed downstairs to the living room. Michael organized the paperwork, bills, insurance, power of attorney forms. Sarah cooked meals nobody really ate, her eyes red from crying. One night she crawled onto the couch with me, head on my shoulder like when she was little. "We'll take care of you, Mom," she whispered, voice breaking. "I promise. You won't be alone." Michael stood in the doorway, arms crossed, nodding slowly. His eyes were on the floor, not on us. I thought it was grief. Tom fought hard, longer than they expected, but in November 2019, he slipped away quietly while I held his hand. The funeral was small. COVID had just started shutting things down. Masks, distancing, only 10 people allowed. Michael gave the eulogy, voice steady. Sarah clung to me, sobbing. After the burial, we came back to the house. The kids stayed a month, helping pack up Tom's clothes, sorting photos, sitting on the porch swing with me in silence. It felt like we were still a family, like the house would hold us together. But even then, looking back, there were little signs I ignored. The way Michael kept asking about the deed, the mortgage, paid off years ago, thank God, the savings account. The way Sarah's hugs felt shorter, her smiles a beat too late. The way they exchanged glances when they thought I wasn't looking. I told myself it was nothing. Stress, grief. They were my babies. They'd promised. I believed them. God help me. I believed every word. After the funeral, the house felt too big and too quiet all at once. The silence pressed in like damp winter air. Tom's recliner still in the corner with the permanent dent from his body, his coffee mug on the kitchen counter where he'd left it that last morning, half full and cold. I couldn't bring myself to move it. I'd walk past it every day, touch the handle like he might still be coming back for the next sip. Grief does strange things. It makes ordinary objects sacred and terrifying at the same time. The kids stayed longer than I expected that first month. Michael slept on the pull-out couch in the den. Sarah took her old bedroom upstairs. They were gentle with me. Too gentle, maybe. Michael made phone calls to the funeral home, argued with the insurance company over small claims, sorted through stacks of mail I'd been ignoring. Sarah cooked chicken noodle soup from scratch, meatloaf the way Tom liked it, even apple pie with the lattice crust she'd learned from me when she was 12. We ate at the kitchen table like old times, though nobody had much appetite. We talked about memories instead of the future. Safe ground. But even in those early days, the cracks were there if you knew where to look. I didn't. Michael started asking questions about the house almost right away, casual at first. "Mom, you ever think about what happens to the place when, down the road?" He'd say it softly, like he was protecting me from the words. I'd shrug and say, "It'll go to you and Sarah, same as everything else." He'd nod, but his eyes would flick to the walls, the ceiling, like he was appraising square footage. One afternoon, he brought over a folder from his office, thick, official looking. "Life estate deed," he explained. "It's simple.
We add my name, or both our names, to the title now. You keep full rights to live here as long as you want. No one can force you out. When you pass, it goes straight to us kids. No probate mess, no taxes eating it up. It's just smart planning, Mom. I hesitated. Tom and I had always talked about keeping things simple, but he was gone, and the thought of lawyers and courts made my stomach twist. Michael was good with money. Wall Street job, nice suits, talked about 401ks and Roth IRAs like they were gospel. I trusted him. You sure this is necessary? I asked. He smiled that easy smile he'd had since he was a boy, charming teachers out of extra recess. It's for protection. What if you get sick? What if someone tries to take advantage? This locks it down. You stay here forever. Promise.
Sarah was in the kitchen when he said it, drying dishes. She didn't look up, just kept wiping the same plate in slow circles. "It makes sense, Mom," she said quietly. "We're trying to take care of you." I signed. The notary came to the house, a nice older woman from Michael's office. She watched me initial every page, asked if I understood, if anyone was pressuring me. I laughed a little, said, "These are my kids. They're the only ones I trust." She nodded, stamped the papers, and left. Michael hugged me afterward, longer than usual. "Thank you, Mom. This means a lot." I felt lighter somehow, like I'd done the responsible thing. After that, things shifted. Slow at first, like ice cracking underfoot before you realize you're falling through. Michael went back to Chicago 2 weeks later. Work, he said. Big project. He promised to call every Sunday. He did, for a while. Then it was every other Sunday. Then texts. "Crazy week, talk soon." Sarah stayed longer, helped me box up Tom's clothes for Goodwill, cleaned out the garage. But she was distracted, phone buzzing constantly. She'd step outside to take calls, voice low. When I asked who it was, she'd say, "Just work," or "a friend." She'd hug me goodbye each night, but the hugs felt thinner, like she was already halfway out the door. By spring 2020, COVID hit hard. Ohio lockdown. No visitors, no church potlucks, no nothing. I was alone in the house for weeks at a time. The kids called more then. Guilt, maybe, or fear. Michael sent groceries through Instacart. Sarah mailed masks and hand sanitizer. But the visits stopped. I understood. Hospitals were full. Tom had just died of cancer. Nobody wanted to risk it. Still, the quiet grew heavier. Bills started coming faster than I could pay them. Property taxes, always a shock when they hit twice a year. Utility spikes from running the furnace nonstop. Roof leaked in the back bedroom during a bad storm. I patched it with buckets and prayed it held. Savings dwindled. I thought about selling some things, Tom's tools, my mother's china, but couldn't bear to. Instead, I cut corners. No cable, cheaper groceries, lights off in rooms I wasn't using. One evening in late 2020, Michael called out of the blue. Not Sunday, not even evening, middle of the afternoon. "Mom, you doing okay with money?" he asked. I lied at first, said yes, fine, but he pressed. "I saw the tax bill when I was there last. You're behind." I admitted it, just a little. He sighed like he'd expected it. "Let me help. I'll send some cash. But we should look at the accounts, make sure everything's joint or accessible in case something happens." I gave him the login for the checking account. Stupid, maybe, but he was my son. He'd always been the fixer. A few days later, he texted, "Transferred $2,000. Use it for the roof guy." I thanked him, cried a little. Relief. Then the questions got more specific. "Mom, how much is left in savings? Any investments Dad had? You still have that old life insurance policy?" I answered honestly. Why wouldn't I? But each call left me uneasy, like I'd handed over pieces of myself without noticing. Sarah's calls changed, too. Shorter. She'd ask about the house, still holding up, then pivot to her own life. Rent too high in Cincinnati, car breaking down, boyfriend drama. Never asked how I was sleeping, if the arthritis was worse, if I missed Tom so bad some nights I couldn't breathe. She'd end with, "Love you, Mom. Gotta run." I started noticing things missing. Not big things. A photo of Tom and me from our honeymoon, gones on the mantel. A small silver locket Sarah made in middle school disappeared from my jewelry box. I told myself I'd misplaced them.
grief fog, but the doubt crept in anyway. One night in early 2021, I couldn't sleep. Wind howled outside, rattling the windows. I went downstairs for tea and found an envelope on the kitchen table. Michael must have mailed it. Inside, copies of the life estate papers I'd signed. A note in his neat handwriting. Just keeping everything organized. Call if you need anything. I sat there in the dark, staring at my own signature. It looked smaller than I remembered. Shaky. For the first time, a whisper of fear slipped under my ribs. What if this wasn't protection? What if it was something else? I pushed the thought away, poured the tea, went back to bed. But the whisper didn't leave. It waited. The first year without Tom blurred into a gray routine. Mornings were the hardest. I'd wake up reaching for him on the empty side of the bed, fingers brushing cold sheets, and the ache would hit fresh every time. I kept the house the way he'd left it, his razor still on the sink ledge, his flannel shirts hanging in the closet like ghosts waiting to be worn. I told myself it was comfort. Really, it was fear. Change anything and the last pieces of him might slip away forever. By summer 2021, the world was starting to open up again after the worst of the lockdowns, but my world stayed small. I drove to the grocery store once a week, waved at neighbors from the porch, attended the occasional church service when my arthritis let me sit through it. Mostly, I stayed home. The house and I had an understanding. I took care of it, it took care of me. Or so I thought. That's when the whispers started. Not voices in my head, thank God, but the kind of quiet warnings life drops like breadcrumbs when you're not paying close enough attention. Mrs. Patel lived next door, been there since before we bought the place. Widowed herself for a decade, sharp as a tack, always in her garden with those bright saris and a sun hat that looked like it belonged on a beach in Florida. She'd bring me tomatoes and okra from her plot, insist I take them, even when I said I had plenty. One sticky August afternoon, she knocked on my screen door with a foil pan of fresh samosas and a look I couldn't quite read. "Eleanor, sit with me a minute," she said, voice low like we were sharing a secret. We settled on the porch swing, creak, creak, iced tea sweating in our hands. She didn't waste time. My cousin in Toledo, her son did something terrible last year, added his name to her house deed, said it was for protection. Next thing she knows, he's telling the bank she's confused, can't manage her affairs. They put her in a home, sold the house out from under her. She's living with her daughter now, but half her savings gone. The son drives a new truck. I laughed, nervous, too loud. "Anita, that's awful, but Michael and Sarah would never. They're good kids. They signed papers to protect me, not hurt me." She tilted her head, eyes soft but steady. Good kids can change when money's on the table, or when life gets hard. Just watch, ask questions. Don't sign anything else without your own lawyer looking at it first. I thanked her for the samosas and the concern, promised I'd be careful. But inside, her words stuck like burrs. That night, I lay awake listening to the crickets and the occasional car passing on Maple Street, replaying every conversation with Michael since Tom died. The life estate papers, the joint account access, the way he'd asked, casual, always casual, about how much was left in savings, if I'd thought about long-term care insurance. I told myself it was love, protection, but Mrs. Patel's story kept replaying, a loop I couldn't pause. A few weeks later, another whisper, this one from Pastor Jim at church. After Sunday service, small crowd, masks still optional, he pulled me aside in the fellowship hall while I was pouring myself decaf. "Eleanor, how are you holding up?" he asked, the way pastors do when they already know the answer isn't great. "Day by day," I said. He nodded, lowered his voice. "I've seen a lot of families lately, kids stepping in too fast after a loss. Power of attorney, deeds, all that. Sometimes it's genuine help. Sometimes it's not. If you ever feel uneasy, even a little, come talk to me. Or better yet, talk to a lawyer who's not connected to your kids. There are free senior legal services through the county. No shame in being cautious." I smiled, thanked him, changed the subject to the upcoming bake sale. But driving home, my hands shook on the wheel. Uneasy, that was the word. A low hum under my ribs that wouldn't quit. I started paying closer attention. Michael's calls grew rarer, once every 10 days instead of weekly. When he did call, the conversation always circled back to practical things. How's the roof holding after that storm? You get that tax bill yet? You still got that old safe in the basement? I answered honestly, but I began editing. I didn't tell him about the small leak in the laundry room I'd fixed myself with caulk and prayer. Didn't mention I'd started keeping important papers in an old metal cookie tin under the kitchen sink. Deed copies, bank statements, Tom's death certificate, my will, the simple one we'd made in the 90s, just in case. Sarah was different. Her texts came in bursts, long silences, then a flood. Photos of her new apartment, complaints about her boss, asking if I could spot her a couple hundreds of car repairs. I sent what I could, but the asks were getting bigger, more frequent. One night she called crying. "Mom, I hate asking, but rent's due and I'm short. Just this once?" I transferred $400 from savings, money I couldn't really spare. She promised to pay it back next paycheck. She didn't. The unease grew teeth. One rainy October evening, I sat at the kitchen table with a cup of chamomile gone cold, staring at the cookie tin I'd pulled out. Inside, everything that mattered. I opened my laptop, ancient thing, slow as molasses, and Googled Elder Financial Abuse Ohio. Pages and pages of stories. Sons and daughters draining accounts, forging signatures, selling houses out from under parents. The common thread? It almost always started with trust. They were my kids, every victim said. I never thought. I closed the laptop fast, heart hammering. No, not mine. Not Michael and Sarah.
But doubt is like damp rot. It starts small, spreads quiet. I began hiding more. Moved the cookie tin to a spot behind the canned goods in the pantry, then to a shoebox in the upstairs closet under winter coats. I stopped giving Michael full answers about money. "Oh, it's fine," I'd say. "I'm managing." When Sarah asked for more help, I said, "Honey, things are tight here too." She got quiet, then mad. "You always helped before." I felt guilty, but the guilt was starting to fight with something sharper, self-preservation. Late one night in November, the anniversary of Tom's passing, I couldn't sleep. Wind rattled the windows. The house groaned like it was grieving too. I went downstairs, turned on the small lamp in the living room, and sat in Tom's recliner. His scent was long gone from the fabric, but I curled up anyway. That's when I noticed something out of place. One of the couch cushions was slightly askew, like someone had lifted it and not put it back just right. I lifted it. Underneath, a yellow legal pad page folded once, Michael's handwriting, dates, numbers, Mom's account balance, est 47K, house value, Zillow approx 310K, after taxes and fees, split 50-50, equals 140K each. Scribbled at the bottom, need to move faster. She's asking questions. My hands shook so hard the paper rattled. I refolded it, put it back exactly as I'd found it, turned off the light, went upstairs, lay in bed staring at the ceiling until dawn.
They weren't protecting me. They were planning. The whispers weren't warnings anymore. They were alarms. And I'd finally started to listen. Spring 2023 came soft and deceptive, the way Ohio does. Crocuses pushing through last year's leaves, forsythia exploding yellow along the fence line, air smelling like wet earth and possibility. I turned 70 that March, alone in the house except for Buddy's successor, an old beagle mix named Scout who mostly slept on the rug by Tom's recliner. I'd stopped expecting the kids to remember my birthday. Michael sent a text, "Happy B-Day, Mom. Busy week. Talk soon." Sarah mailed a card, generic roses on the front, her handwriting inside. "Love you. XOXO." No visit, no call. I told myself it was fine. People get busy. Life moves on. I was wrong. It was a Tuesday in April, the kind of ordinary day that should have stayed ordinary. I'd driven to the Kroger on the edge of town, 20 minutes each way, but I liked the routine. Picked up milk, bread, a small roast for Sunday, even if I'd eat it alone, and a half-gallon of vanilla ice cream, because why not treat myself? My arms ached from carrying the 2 plastic bags up the driveway. Arthritis had settled deep in my shoulders that year. Scout barked once from the porch as I approached, tail wagging slow.
I set the bags down, fished for my keys, the brass one with the worn notch for the front door. I slid it in. It stopped halfway. I jiggled. Nothing. Tried again, harder. The key wouldn't turn. New lock. Shiny brass deadbolt where the old tarnished one used to be. My stomach dropped, like I'd missed a step on the stairs. I knocked, soft at first. Hello? Then louder. Michael? Sarah? Scout whined, pressing against my leg. The door opened. Michael stood there in a navy polo I didn't recognize, sleeves rolled, looking calm. Too calm. Behind him, the living room looked the same. Couch, coffee table, Tom's recliner. But boxes lined the hallway. My boxes. My clothes folded neatly inside. My photo album stacked beside them. Mom, he said, stepping aside like he was inviting me into someone else's home. Come in. We need to talk. I didn't move. The bags were still at my feet. Milk was starting to sweat through the plastic. What's going on? Why can't I get in my house? Sarah appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel. My dish towel, the one with faded sunflowers. Her eyes were red, but not from crying. From something else. Guilt, maybe, or resolve. Mom, sit down, please. They guided me inside, more like steered me. The door clicked shut behind us. Scout trotted over, confused, sniffing Michael's shoes like he didn't know him anymore. I sank onto the couch because my legs wouldn't hold me. The room smelled like lemon cleaner and cardboard. Michael sat across from me on the ottoman, Tom's ottoman, elbows on knees, hands clasped. We've been worried about you. Living alone, forgetting things, the roof leak you didn't tell us about, the unpaid bills piling up. You're not safe here anymore. I'm fine, I said, voice thin. I manage. I always have. Sarah knelt beside me, took my hand. Hers was cold. We talked to a doctor. Well, Michael did. He said you might have early cognitive issues, memory lapses. It's common after grief and stress. We can't let you stay here alone. It's not safe. My mouth went dry. What doctor? I haven't seen anyone. Michael pulled a folder from the coffee table. Same folder he'd used years ago for the life estate papers. He opened it. Medical forms. A signature that looked like mine but wasn't. Too neat, too steady. Dr. Harlan, geriatric specialist in Dayton. You saw him last month, remember? He recommended assisted living. We found a place. Affordable. Medicaid will cover most of it. It's nice, Mom. Private room, activities, people your age. I stared at the papers. I never saw any doctor named Harlan. Sarah squeezed my hand. You were confused that day. You forgot. It happens. Panic rose sharp in my throat. This is my home. I raised you here. Your father died here. I'm not leaving. Michael's voice stayed gentle, like he was talking to a child. You don't have a choice. We have power of attorney. Legal guardianship proceedings started last week. The life estate means we control the property now, for your benefit. We're selling the house. The money will pay for your care. You'll be taken care of. Selling? The word hit like a slap. You can't sell my house. We already have an offer, he said quietly. Cash, quick close. It's happening. Sarah stood up, started packing again, my sweaters from the hall closet into a suitcase. It's for your own good, Mom. You'll see. You'll adjust. I stood, legs shaking. Get out, both of you. This is trespassing. Michael rose slowly. Mom, don't make this harder. The sheriff's on standby if we need him. We don't want that. Sheriff. The word landed heavy. I looked around, at the boxes, the new lock, my children's calm faces, and understood. This wasn't a discussion. It was done. They walked me to their car, Michael's black SUV parked in the driveway like it belonged there. Sarah buckled me in the back seat like I was fragile cargo. Scout whined from the porch. Michael said, "We'll find him a home." I didn't answer. I couldn't. As we pulled away, I twisted to watch the house recede in the side mirror. The porch swaying empty, the forsythia still bright. The roof I'd patched myself last fall. My home, shrinking smaller.
until it was gone. We drove in silence for 20 minutes. Sarah stared out the window. Michael kept both hands on the wheel, eyes straight ahead. I sat in the back, clutching my purse, the only thing I'd been allowed to keep, feeling the weight of the cookie tin keys I'd hidden inside, the flash drive still tucked in there with Tom's old records. They didn't know about that. Not yet. The assisted living place was on the outskirts of Cleveland. Low brick building, manicured lawn, sign reading Maple Grove Senior Residences in cheerful blue letters. Inside smelled like bleach and overcooked peas. A nurse named Carla smiled too wide, took my arm. "Welcome, Mrs. Hayes. Your room's all ready." They left me there, Michael hugging me stiffly, Sarah kissing my cheek and whispering, "We love you. This is best." Then they were gone, car taillights fading down the long driveway. I stood in the narrow room, single bed, small dresser, window overlooking a parking lot, and felt the full weight settle. Homeless in every way that mattered. My children had taken the only thing I had left. That night I lay on the thin mattress listening to strangers cough and call out in the dark. I didn't cry. Not then. Tears would come later. Instead, I stared at the ceiling and made a promise to myself. They thought this was over. It wasn't. Not by a long shot. The first night at Maple Grove Senior Residences felt like waking up in someone else's bad dream. The room was small, maybe 10 by 12 feet, with pale beige walls that looked like they'd been painted to match the hopelessness. A single bed with a plastic-covered mattress that crinkled every time I moved. A narrow window that overlooked the employee parking lot, where sodium lights buzzed all night like angry insects. No porch swing, no scout wine nick door, no scent of coffee drifting from the kitchen at dawn. Just institutional quiet broken by distant coughs, a television blaring game shows down the hall, and the occasional call button chime that nobody seemed to answer quickly. They'd taken almost everything. My suitcase sat unopened in the corner, 2 changes of clothes, a few nightgowns, my Bible, the framed photo of Tom and me on our wedding day that Sarah had thoughtfully packed. My purse was on the dresser, contents inventoried and returned, minus my checkbook and credit cards. "Family handles finances now," the intake nurse had said with a practiced smile. "We'll get you set up with a small allowance for the vending machine." An allowance, like I was a child at summer camp. Michael sat across from me on the ottoman, Tom's ottoman, elbows on knees, hands clasped. "We've been worried about you. Living alone, forgetting things, the roof leak you didn't tell us about, the unpaid bills piling up. You're not safe here anymore." "I'm fine," I said, voice thin. "I manage. I always have." Sarah knelt beside me, took my hand. Hers was cold. "We talked to a doctor. Well, Michael did. He said you might have early cognitive issues, memory lapses. It's common after grief and stress. We can't let you stay here alone. It's not safe." My mouth went dry. "What doctor? I haven't seen anyone." Michael pulled a folder from the coffee table. Same folder he'd used years ago for the life estate papers. He opened it. Medical forms. A signature that looked like mine but wasn't. Too neat, too steady. "Dr. Harlan, geriatric specialist in Dayton. You saw him last month, remember? He recommended assisted living. We found a place, affordable. Medicaid will cover most of it. It's nice, Mom. Private room, activities, people your age." I stared at the papers. I never saw any doctor named Harlan. Sarah squeezed my hand. "You were confused that day. You forgot. It happens." Panic rose sharp in my throat. "This is my home. I raised you here. Your father died here. I'm not leaving." Michael's voice stayed gentle, like he was talking to a child. "You don't have a choice. We have power of attorney. Legal guardianship proceedings started last week. The life estate means we control the property now. For your benefit. We're selling the house. The money will pay for your care. You'll be taken care of." By the second month, the loneliness had teeth. I started walking the halls during free time, nodding at other residents, mostly women like me, widows or divorcees, whose families had placed them here for their own good. We'd exchange small stories in the lounge. My daughter said the house was too much for me. My son needed the money for his kids' college. They promised they'd visit every weekend. The promises were always the same. The visits never came. One afternoon in late May, I sat by the big picture window in the common room, watching rain streak the glass. A new resident, Mrs. Kowalski, mid-70s, sharp eyes behind thick glasses, rolled her wheelchair over. "First time?" she asked. "Second month," I said. She nodded. "They get you with the 'it's for your safety' line. Then the house sells, the money vanishes, and you're stuck here on Medicaid with a $10 weekly personal needs allowance. Seen it a dozen times." I looked at her. "You too?"
"Son added his name to the deed years ago. Said it was estate planning. Last year he declared me incompetent. Had a doctor friend sign off. Sold my condo in Akron for $300,000. I got a room here and a promise he'd visit. Haven't seen him since Christmas 2 years ago." My throat tightened. "Did you fight it?" "Tried. No money for a lawyer. Legal aid's backed up 6 months. By the time you get a hearing, the house is gone, cash is spent. They call it self-dealing. Courts don't care unless there's hard proof." Proof. The word lodged in my chest. I thought of the cookie tin, still under the sink back home, if the new owners hadn't found it. The flash drive Tom had hidden years ago, with bank statements, old emails. Maybe there was something there, maybe not, but it was all I had. That night I asked the night nurse, young guy named Jamal, if I could use the staff computer to check my email. He felt sorry for me, let me sit for 15 minutes after lights out. I logged into an old Gmail account I hadn't used in years. No new messages from the kids, but I searched my own sent folder. There it was, an email from Michael, dated 2 weeks before the lock change. Subject, update on mom's care plan. I opened it.
Forwarded chain. Michael to a realtor named Greg Harlan, the same last name as the doctor they'd mentioned. Mom's moving to assisted living next month. House should be ready for listing by May 15th. Cash buyers preferred. Quick close. Estimate value $380 to $420K after updates. Let me know commission split. Reply from Greg. Got it. I'll run comps. You still want to list under the Life Estate Trust? Michael. Yes. Power of attorney covers it. She's not competent to sign anymore. Keep it quiet. My hands shook on the mouse. I closed the browser fast when Jamal came back, heart pounding so hard I thought the nurse would hear it. They hadn't just moved me. They'd planned the sale before I even knew the locks were changing, before the fake doctor visit I never had, before the power of attorney I didn't remember signing. The next morning, I asked the front desk if I could speak to a social worker about legal concerns. They scheduled me for Thursday, 3 days away. I spent those days pacing my room, writing notes on scraps of paper towel, dates, names, what I remembered. I hid them inside my Bible, between the pages of Psalms. Thursday came. The social worker, Miss Rivera, kind but harried, listened while I told her everything. The deed change, the sudden move, no visits, the overheard email hints. She took notes, frowned. "Elder financial exploitation is real," she said. "But to challenge a power of attorney or life estate, you need evidence. Forgery, undue influence, incapacity fraud, and a lawyer. I can refer you to Legal Aid for Seniors, but there's a wait list. And is the house already sold?" She didn't finish. She didn't have to. That afternoon, I overheard 2 aides talking in the medication room while I waited for my blood pressure check. "That poor lady in 112, Hayes, her son sold the house last week. Full cash, no contingencies. She doesn't even know yet, thinks they're protecting it for her." Laughter, short, uncomfortable. Family, right? They'll spend it all before she's cold. I froze in the hallway. Sold. Last week. My home. Our home. Gone. The porch swing, the backyard where the kids played, the kitchen table where we ate every Sunday. Gone for cash my children had already divided, probably. I walked back to my room on numb legs, sat on the bed. For the first time since they'd driven me away, the tears came. Hot, silent, unstoppable. They'd taken everything. But they hadn't taken my fight. Not yet. I wiped my face, opened the Bible, found the scraps of paper, started writing again. Names, dates, questions. This wasn't the end. It was the beginning of something else, something they never saw coming.
The days after overhearing the aides talk about the house sale turned into a slow, burning fog. I stopped going to bingo, stopped pretending to enjoy the watery jello at lunch. I stayed in my room most of the time, door closed, staring at the wall or out at the parking lot where staff cars came and went like nothing had changed. But everything had. My home was gone, sold for cash I'd never see, and my children had done it while I sat in this beige box believing their lies about your own good. I needed proof, real proof, not just whispers in hallways or half-remembered emails glimpsed on a borrowed computer, something solid enough to take to a lawyer, to a judge, to anyone who'd listen. The cookie tin was my only hope, the one I'd hidden under the sink years ago, then forgotten about in the chaos of the move. If Michael and Sarah hadn't gutted the place before closing, it might still be there. If the new owners hadn't remodeled the kitchen yet. If. Too many ifs for a woman with nothing left to lose. That's when Rita came back into my life. Rita Alvarez and I had been friends since the kids were small. Same church, same PTA meetings, same late-night talks on the porch when her husband's worked overtime. She'd moved to a condo in Dayton after her husband passed, but she still drove out to see me every couple of weeks. First time she visited Maple Grove, she brought homemade tamales and cried when she saw my room. "This isn't right, Ellie," she said, hugging me so tight I could smell her rose perfume. "They can't just do this." "They already did," I told her. The second visit, I told her everything. The forged doctor note, the power of attorney I didn't remember signing, the email chain I'd seen, the house sold last week. Her face hardened. "We need to get into that house," she said, "before they strip it clean or the new people throw everything out." I stared at her. "It's not my house anymore. It's still got your things in it, and maybe evidence. You said the cookie tin was under the sink. If it's there." I gave her the spare key I'd kept hidden in my Bible, the one I'd never told the kids about, the original front door key from before the locks changed. "Be careful," I whispered. "If they catch you." "They won't. I'll go during the day when neighbors are at work. Act like I'm a friend checking on the place for the family. People see an older Latina woman with a sad face. They don't ask questions." She left that afternoon with a key in her pocket and a determined look I hadn't seen since we protested the plant closing back in '95.
3 days later, she came back. Early evening, after visiting hours technically ended, but the front desk nurse knew her by now and let her slip in. She carried a small canvas tote and set it on my bed like it held gold. Inside, the cookie tin, rusty around the edges, dented from years of being shoved around, but intact. "I almost cried when I found it," Rita said. "New owners hadn't touched the kitchen yet. Still smelled like your lemon cleaner. They're flipping it, though. Saw paint cans in the garage. I grabbed what I could fast." I opened the tin with trembling hands. Photos spilled out first. Michael's kindergarten picture, Sarah in her prom dress, Tom and me at the county fair with cotton candy stuck to our chins. Then papers, old utility bills, Tom's life insurance policy, cashed out years ago, my will from 1998, and at the bottom, the flash drive, a small black USB stick Tom had bought at a Radio Shack clearance sale in 2010. He'd called it his backup brain. Bank statements, tax returns, random notes he didn't trust to paper. Rita had also brought her old laptop, ancient Dell, but it worked. We plugged in the drive in the dim light of my room. Door locked, voices low. Files opened slowly. Most were boring. PDFs of old W-2s, scanned receipts. But one folder caught my eye. Personal, confidential. Inside, bank statements from our joint account going back to 2015. I scrolled. Small withdrawals, $200 here, $500 there, labeled as M, MISC, or transfer to M. Over months, then years, they added up. Thousands. Then a bigger one, $8,000 in 2021, right after Tom died. Memo, loan repayment M. No loan, I remembered. Emails next. Tom had forwarded some to himself, probably when he first suspected something. One from Michael to a casino online support. Account locked after large withdrawal. Need to verify identity. Attached screenshot. Balance down to negative $3,200. Another from a credit card company. Past due notice for $14,000.
mostly gambling charges from Atlantic City trips Michael had said were business conferences. My son had a gambling problem, had it for years, and he'd been taking from us to feed it. Rita put her arm around me as the screen glowed. He's been planning this a long time, Ellie. The gambling debts explain the rush. He needed cash fast. I stared at the dates. The last withdrawal, $4,500, 2 weeks before they changed the locks, probably to cover closing costs, or bribes, or whatever else it took to push an old woman out of her home. There was more, a saved email chain between Michael and a lawyer, not the one who notarized the life estate, a different one. Client seeks to exercise life estate rights due to grantor's declining capacity. Attached, physician affidavit, Dr. Harlan. The affidavit was scanned in, date stamped March 2023. I'd never met a Dr. Harlan, never had an appointment. The signature looked forged, too perfect. No.
Doctor's scrawl. Rita copied everything to her laptop, then to a second flash drive she'd brought. "We need backups," she said, "and we need a real lawyer, not legal aid with a 6-month wait, someone who specializes in elder abuse." She knew a woman, Carla Esposito, a solo practitioner in Dayton who took pro bono cases for seniors. Rita had met her through church outreach. "She's fierce," Rita said. "Lost her own mother to something like this. She'll fight dirty if she has to." I nodded, numb. "Call her. Tomorrow." That night after Rita left, I sat on the bed with the cookie tin open beside me. Photos scattered like fallen leaves. I picked up one of the 4 of us at Christmas 2005. Tom alive, kids young and smiling, me with hair not yet fully gray. We looked unbreakable. I wasn't unbreakable anymore, but I wasn't finished. The next morning, I asked the front desk for a phone directory, found the number for Carla Esposito, attorney at law, dialed from the payphone in the hall, quarters clinking like small prayers. She answered on the second ring, voice calm, no nonsense. "Esposito." I told her my name, my story, the house, the kids, the flash drive, the sale. Silence for a beat. Then, "Mrs. Hayes, can you get those files to me?" "Rita can bring them." "Thud. Come in tomorrow. Bring any other papers you have. We'll start with a temporary restraining order to freeze any remaining proceeds from the sale. Then we go after the power of attorney, fraud, undue influence, elder financial abuse. It's a felony in Ohio." My voice cracked. "They're my children."
I know, she said softly. That's what makes it hurt worse. But the law doesn't care about blood when it's this ugly. We'll get your house back, or what's left of the money, and we'll make sure they never do this to anyone else. I hung up, leaned against the wall. For the first time in months, I felt something sharper than grief. Anger. Clean. Bright. Useful. They thought they'd buried me in this place. They were wrong. I was just getting started. The moment Rita handed me the copied flash drive and the printed emails, something inside me cracked wide open. Not grief this time, but rage. Clean, white hot, the kind that makes your hands steady instead of shake. I'd spent months in that beige room at Maple Grove convincing myself the kids were just misguided, stressed, maybe even scared. But the evidence was right there in black and white. Gambling debts, secret withdrawals, forged medical notes, a realtor already lining up buyers before I'd even packed a suitcase. My children hadn't helped me. They'd hunted me.
I waited 3 days, 3 long, sleepless nights before I made the call. Rita loaned me her cell phone during her next visit. We sat in the visitor's lounge, door half closed, her hand on my knee for courage. I dialed Michael first, his number still memorized after all these years. It rang 4 times. I thought it would go to voicemail like always. Then he answered. "Mom?" His voice sounded surprised, almost wary, like he hadn't expected me to call, like maybe he'd hoped I'd just fade away quietly. "Michael," I said. My voice didn't tremble. It was flat, cold. "You sold the house." Silence stretched so long I could hear traffic in the background on his end. Chicago, probably. Horns, rain on pavement. Finally, "Mom, listen. You sold it last week. Cash deal.
before you even told me it was happening, before the so-called doctor said I was incompetent. You forged that note, didn't you? Dr. Harlan never saw me, never examined me. You paid someone or faked it. More silence. Then softer. It wasn't like that. The house was underwater on taxes. Repairs were piling up. You couldn't manage. Stop. The word came out sharp enough to cut. The market's been up for 2 years. Zillow said 400,000 minimum. You pocketed the money. For what? More poker tables? Blackjack? Those casino trips you called business? He sucked in a breath. How do you?
I have the bank records, the emails. Tom saved everything. You've been stealing from us for years. Small amounts at first, then bigger. 8,000 right after the funeral. 4,000 just before you changed the locks. You used our money, your father's money, to pay your debts. And when it wasn't enough, you took the house. Mom, I was going to pay it back, I swear. Things got out of hand. I was protecting you. Protecting me? I laughed, short, bitter. You put me in a Medicaid warehouse with strangers crying in the halls at night. You took my home, the one place I still felt him. You left me homeless. He started to speak again, some excuse about Sarah not knowing the full amount, about how he was going to fix it, but I cut him off. Don't lie to me anymore. I have proof. Lawyers are looking at it now. You're going to lose everything you stole. I hung up before he could answer. My hands were steady. Rita squeezed my shoulder. You did good, Ellie. Next, I texted Sarah. Simple, direct. I know about the house sale. I know Michael took most of the money. Call me. Her reply came in under a minute. Mom, please don't do this. You're embarrassing the family. Michael's going through a lot. We thought we were helping. Helping. That word again.
I called her. She picked up on the first ring, voice high and defensive. Mom, stop harassing us. We did what we had to. You weren't safe alone. I was safe until you changed the locks and threw me out like trash. You're in a nice place. They take care of you. I'm in a prison with better lighting, and you sold my home for cash while I sat here believing you loved me. Silence. Then quieter. Michael said the money was for your care, long term. He handled it. He lied. He kept most of it. Gambling, debts. Check your half, if you even got one. Ask him for the closing statement. See how much he really gave you. She started crying. Soft sobs over the line. I didn't know. I thought. You thought what was easiest. You let him do it. You packed my clothes. You buckled me in the car. You kissed my cheek and said it was for my own good. I'm sorry, she whispered. Sorry doesn't bring back the house or the years you stole from me. I hung up too.
The next week was a storm. Carla Esposito, the lawyer Rita found, filed emergency motions, temporary restraining order on any remaining sale proceeds, petition to revoke the power of attorney, complaint for elder financial abuse and fraud. She subpoenaed bank records, real estate closing docs, Michael's casino statements through a private investigator she kept on retainer. Every day, Rita brought updates, printed emails, deposition notices, court dates. Michael called once more, voicemail this time. Mom, please, let's talk. I'll come visit. We can work this out. I love you. I deleted it without listening all the way through. Sarah sent flowers, cheap carnations from the grocery store, card saying, I'm so sorry, please forgive us. I threw them in the trash can by the nurse's station. The anger kept me going, but at night it turned hollow. I'd sit by the window watching rain streak the glass, thinking about the porch swing on Maple Street, the way Tom used to push me on it, slow and steady, while the kids played tag in the yard. The way Michael used to climb into my lap and say, when I grow up, I'm going to buy you a bigger house. The way Sarah braided flowers into my hair and called me her queen. They were gone. Not dead. Worse. Strangers wearing my children's faces.
One evening in early July, Carla called Rita's phone. I answered. They're panicking, she said. Michael's lawyer reached out, wants to settle, return what's left of the money, about $180,000 after fees, and void the sale if the new owners agree. They're scared of criminal charges. Elder abuse is a felony here. Prison time, fines, restitution. I asked the only question that mattered. Can I get the house back? Maybe, if the buyers back out or the court voids the transfer. But it'll be empty, stripped. They started renovations, new floors, paint. It won't feel the same. I didn't care. Push for the house and charges. I want them to feel what I felt. Carla paused. You sure? Prison for your own son. I'm sure. I hung up and stared at the wall. The breaking point wasn't the house sale anymore. It wasn't the lies or the money. It was realizing I'd raised two people who could look at their mother, old, grieving, trusting, and decide she was worth more dead than alive. That realization didn't just break me. It rebuilt me. Harder, colder, ready. They'd left me homeless. Now I was going to make sure they never felt safe in their own skins again. The reckoning was coming, and I was no longer the one crying in the dark. The court filings landed like stones in still water, ripples at first, then waves that threatened to drown everything Michael and Sarah had built on lies. Carla Esposito moved fast. Within days of the emergency motion, she had a hearing date set for late July 2023 in the Montgomery County Probate Court. Subpoenas flew out like arrows. Michael's bank records, Sarah's too. The real estate closing statement from Greg Harlan, the same last name as the fake doctor. Coincidence? Carla didn't think so. Casino transaction logs pulled through a forensic accountant she hired on contingency. Every piece of paper screamed one thing. Greed had a paper trail.
Rita brought the updates during her twice-weekly visits, printed stacks tucked into a plain manila envelope labeled Church Recipes in case anyone at Maple Grove got nosy. We'd sit in my room with the door shut, blinds half drawn, reading line by line like detectives on a cold case. The first bombshell, the house hadn't sold for $380,000 like the realtor's quick estimate. It went for $420,000 cash, well above market, because the buyer wanted a flip project in a hot suburb. Michael pocketed the lion's share. Closing docs showed $280,000 wired to an account in his name only. Sarah got $42,000, 10%, wired to her checking 2 days later. The rest vanished into fees, reimbursements, and a mysterious $50,000 transfer labeled consulting services to a shell LLC Michael had set up 6 months earlier. Carla called it classic money laundering light. I called it theft from his own mother and sister. But the real gut punch came in the emails Carla subpoenaed from Michael's work account, ones he thought were safe because he used his company laptop for personal business. One chain dated February 2023, 2 months before the lock change, between Michael and Sarah. Michael: Mom's getting forgetful. Doc says early dementia signs. We can move on the life estate now. Sell quick, split the cash. You in? Sarah: I don't know. Feels wrong. She's still sharp sometimes.
She's not, and we need the money. My debts are piling up again. You want to lose your apartment? This is our future. 60-40 split. My cut covers what I've already fronted for her care. Okay, but we make sure she's in a good place, and we visit. Promise. Promise. Realtors lined up. I'll handle the POA addendum. You just back me up if she fights. No reply from Sarah after that. Just a thumbs up emoji. I read it twice, then set the printout down. My hands didn't shake. They were ice. She knew, I whispered to Rita. She didn't just go along. She negotiated. Rita nodded slowly. Greed's contagious, especially when your brother's drowning and pulls you under with him. But there was more, deeper. Carla dug into Michael's LLC. Public records showed it formed right after Tom's funeral. Registered agent, Michael Hayes. Purpose, investment consulting. Bank statements linked to it showed transfers from our joint account starting in 2020. Small at first, then bigger. One wire, $15,000 to a sports betting site in New Jersey. Another, $22,000 to an online poker platform. The pattern was clear. He'd been siphoning for years, covering losses, chasing the next big win. When the well dried up, the house became the jackpot. Sarah's role crystallized in her own bank records. Deposits matched the $42,000 exactly, split into chunks. $10,000 to her landlord for back rent, $8,000 to a car dealership, new SUV, $5,000 cash withdrawal the day after closing. She'd spent her cut before the ink dried. No visits, no guilt payments to me, just lifestyle upgrades.
Carla called one afternoon while Rita was there, speakerphone on low. "We've got them on undue influence and fraud," she said. "The forged doctor note is the linchpin. Dr. Harlan's real, but he never saw you. Michael paid his nurse practitioner $2,000 cash for the signature. We have the Venmo receipt. That's felony elder abuse right there." "What about Sarah?" I asked. "She's complicit. Texts, emails, she knew the plan. She'll claim she was manipulated, but the jury won't buy it when they see she cashed the check and bought a new car." Jury. The word made it real. Criminal charges loomed. Felony financial exploitation of an elderly person. Forgery, theft by deception. Michael faced 5 to 10 years if convicted. Sarah maybe probation, maybe less, but her name would be mud. The suspense built like a storm rolling in slow. Court dates kept getting pushed. Michael's lawyer stalling, asking for mediation. Carla refused. "No deals until the house is back in your name," she told me, "and restitution, full." One night in August, I couldn't sleep. The facility air conditioner rattled like loose change. I sat at the small desk, flashlight from Rita's last visit, rereading the emails. That's when I found the last hidden truth, buried in a deleted folder. Carla's forensic guy recovered from Michael's cloud backup. An email to himself. Draft, never sent. Subject, after. Body. "Once Mom's gone, Sarah gets half the rest. But if she pushes back, I've got leverage." Old texts where she said yes to the plan. "She's in as deep as me. Sell the house, pay off debts, disappear for a while. New start, no looking back." He'd planned to cut her out too. Cheat his own sister after cheating his mother. I stared at the screen until my eyes burned. Not just betrayal. Calculated, cold-blooded betrayal. He hadn't loved either of us. We were assets, liquidatable. The next morning I called Carla. "No settlement," I said. "Push for everything. Criminal referral, full restitution, and make sure the judge sees that draft email." She paused. "You sure? This could destroy them both. Jobs, reputations, futures." "They destroyed mine first." Silence. Then, "Okay, we go all in." The hearing was scheduled for September. Depositions started the week before. Michael on video, sweating under fluorescent lights, lawyer objecting every other question. Sarah in person, eyes down, voice small, claiming I trusted my brother. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s named Harlan, no relation, thank God, didn't look impressed. I didn't attend, couldn't bear to see their faces. Rita went instead, sat in the back row, texted me updates. Michael's pale, keeps asking for water. Sarah cried during cross. Judge didn't blink. The tension coiled tighter every day. Would the buyers fight the voided sale? Would Michael plead out? Would Sarah turn on him to save herself? I waited in my room, cookie tin open beside me. Photos of the family we used to be spread like evidence of a crime scene. The truth wasn't hidden anymore. It was screaming. And the reckoning had only just begun. September 2023 arrived like a storm that had been gathering for months. Dark clouds low, air thick with the promise of lightning. The courtroom in the Montgomery County Probate and Juvenile Court building smelled of old wood polish, stale coffee, and nervous sweat. I didn't attend the main hearing. Couldn't. The thought of sitting across from Michael and Sarah, watching their faces twist through excuses and tears, was too much. Instead, Rita went every day, sat in the back row like a quiet sentinel, texting me updates in real time, short bursts that hit my burner phone like punches. Judge Harlan just walked in, stern, no nonsense. Michael's in a suit, looks like he hasn't slept in weeks. Sarah's crying already, lawyer keeps handing her tissues. Carla Esposito had built the case like a fortress. She started with the forged physician affidavit, Dr. Carew. One night in August, I couldn't sleep. The facility air conditioner rattled like loose change. I sat at the small desk, flashlight from Rita's last visit, rereading emails. That's when I found the last hidden truth, buried in a deleted folder, Carla's forensic guy recovered from Michael's cloud backup. An email to himself. Draft, never sent. Subject, after. Body. Once Mom's gone, Sarah gets half the rest.
But if she pushes back, I've got leverage. Old texts where she said yes to the plan. She's in as deep as me. Sell the house, pay off debts, disappear for a while. New start. No looking back. He'd planned to cut her out too, cheat his own sister after cheating his mother. I stared at the screen until my eyes burned. Not just betrayal, calculated, cold-blooded betrayal. He hadn't loved either of us. We were assets, liquidatable. Harlan's nurse practitioner admitted under oath she'd signed it for cash. No exam, no notes. The judge's eyebrows rose so high they nearly disappeared into her hairline. Next came the bank records. Years of small, then larger withdrawals from our joint account, all funneled to Michael's gambling accounts. Casino logs showed dates matching the transfers. Atlantic City weekends he'd called conferences. Las Vegas trips he'd said were networking. The numbers didn't lie. Over $120,000 drained before the house sale. Then the big one, $280,000 from the $420,000 proceeds, wired straight to him. Sarah's lawyer tried to paint her as the victim, manipulated sister, trusting daughter, unaware of the full extent. But Carla produced the emails, the texts, the thumbs-up emoji that sealed her complicity. Sarah took the stand on day 2. Rita texted. She's shaking, keeps looking at the door like she wants to run. Sarah cried through most of her testimony. I trusted Michael. He said it was for Mom's care. I didn't know about the gambling. I thought we were protecting her. The judge asked one question that cut clean through. Did you spend any of the money you received from the sale? Sarah whispered yes. New car, rent, bills. The judge nodded once. No more questions. The next morning I called Carla. No settlement, I said. Push for everything. Criminal referral, full restitution, and make sure the judge sees that draft email. She paused. You sure? This could destroy them both. Jobs, reputations, futures. They destroyed mine first. Silence. Then, okay, we go all in.
Michael went last. He looked smaller in the witness box, suit hanging loose, eyes hollow. His lawyer tried damage control, addiction, pressure, poor judgment. Michael admitted the gambling, admitted the withdrawals, admitted pushing the sale, but he choked on the forgery. I was desperate, he said, voice cracking. Mom was grieving, confused. I thought I was saving her from losing everything. The judge leaned forward. You forged a medical document. You declared your own mother incompetent without due process. You profited. Explain how that saves her. He couldn't. He broke down, sobbing, head in hands. The courtroom went quiet, except for his ragged breaths. Rita texted. Even his lawyer looked sick. The new buyers, young couple from Columbus, had already been subpoenaed. They testified they'd paid fair market, acted in good faith. Carla didn't fight them hard. She wanted the sale voided on fraud grounds, not to punish innocents. The judge ruled the transfer fraudulent from the start. Title reverted to me, effective immediately. The buyers would get their money back from Michael's frozen accounts. They'd sue him separately for damages. He'd face that storm later. On restitution, the court ordered full accounting. What remained of the $420,000, about $180,000 after Michael's spending, was frozen and ordered returned to me, plus interest. The gambling winnings he'd chased? Gone. His account seized. Sarah had to repay her $42,000 cut, or face wage garnishment. Criminal referral came next. The judge didn't hesitate. Elder financial exploitation, felony in Ohio, forgery, theft. She forwarded the case to the prosecutor's office that afternoon. Michael faced 5 to 10 years. Sarah, as accessory, faced 1 to 3, likely probation if she cooperated. But the damage was deeper than prison. Michael's finance job? Suspended pending investigation. Sarah's marketing position at a small firm? She quit before they could fire her. Reputation ruined in Cincinnati's tight circles. The ruling hit the local news the next day. Small article in the Dayton Daily News. Local man charged in elder abuse scheme involving mother's home. No names for me, protected, but enough details that neighbors whispered. Mrs. Patel texted Rita. Tell Eleanor we're proud. Justice. A week later they tried to reach me. Michael first, through Carla. He wants to visit, beg forgiveness, says he's in treatment, gambling program. I told Carla no visitors, no calls, nothing. Sarah sent flowers again, this time expensive roses from a florist, not the grocery store. Card in her neat handwriting. Mom, I'm so sorry. I was wrong. I let him convince me. Please let me explain. I love you. I miss you. I read it once, then tore it in half, threw it away. 2 months after the ruling, the house keys were delivered to Carla's office. I went with Rita to pick them up. We drove to Maple Street in silence.
The forsythia was gone, replaced by new sod. The porch swing had been taken down, bare chains dangled from the rafters. Inside, stripped. Hardwood floors sanded but unfinished, walls primed white, kitchen cabinets half removed, counters gone. The smell of sawdust and fresh paint overpowered everything else. I walked room to room alone. Michael's old bedroom, empty, except for a single nail hole where his posters used to hang. Sarah's, same. The living room where Tom died, echoing. The kitchen where we'd laughed over burnt dinners, gutted. I stood in the center, arms wrapped around myself, and let the tears come. Not for what was gone, for what had been. Rita found me there. You got it back, Ellie. I got the shell, I said. The heart's gone. But it was mine again. That mattered. Michael went to prison in early 2024, 18 months, minimum security, gambling treatment mandatory. Sarah got probation, community service, restitution payments stretched over years. She moved back in with a cousin in Kentucky. Last I heard, she was waitressing again. Ironic, considering that's how I raised her. They both tried one last time. Letters through Carla. Michael's, apologies, promises to change, pleas for a second chance. Sarah's, tears on paper, memories of childhood, begging to come home. I read them. Then I wrote one reply, short, final. No. You made your choices. Live with them. I'm done. I mailed it certified. Then I burned the copies in the backyard fire pit Rita helped me build. The house stood quiet again. Empty rooms, echoes. But it was mine. And for the first time in years, I slept through the night. The reckoning wasn't loud explosions or dramatic courtroom scenes. It was quiet, final, irreversible. They had lost a mother. I'd lost children who never really were mine to keep. And in that loss, I found something harder, stronger. Myself. The house on Maple Street is quiet now. Not the kind of quiet that comes after a storm passes, but the heavy, permanent kind that settles into the bones of a place when the life has been drained out and only echoes remain. I moved back in November 2024, 3 months after the court handed me the keys, 6 months after Michael started his sentence, a year after they changed the locks and drove me away. The place still smelled faintly of sawdust and primer, like a wound that had scabbed over but never fully healed. I didn't try to restore it to what it was. Couldn't. Too many ghosts in the corners, too many memories stitched into the walls. I kept the living room bare for weeks. No furniture except a folding chair Rita brought over, and the old recliner, Tom's recliner, that the new owners hadn't bothered to haul away. It sat in the same spot, fabric worn thin, arms stained from years of coffee spills. I sat there most evenings, wrapped in one of Tom's old flannel shirts I'd found in a box in the basement, staring at the empty fireplace. Scout, my beagle mix, had been returned to me by a kind shelter volunteer who'd fostered him after the move. He curled at my feet now, gray muzzle resting on my slipper, snoring softly. At least one piece of the old life had come back. Money was tight again, but different tight. The restitution check from Michael's frozen accounts arrived in January, $210,000 after legal fees and interest, enough to pay off the back taxes, fix the roof properly, replace the stripped kitchen. I didn't splurge. I hired a local contractor, a quiet man named Luis, who worked slow and honest, and had him rebuild only what was necessary. New cabinets, granite counters that wouldn't break the bank, fresh paint and soft cream instead of the stark white they'd started. The porch swing came back too. I found the original chains in the garage rafters, bought new slats from the lumber yard, and hung it myself one crisp Saturday morning. It creaks the same way it always did. Sometimes I sit out there at dusk, wrapped in a blanket, watching the streetlights flicker on, remembering how Tom used to push me gently while the kids chased fireflies. But the laughter doesn't come back. The house feels bigger without it. Emptier. To make ends meet and keep the loneliness from swallowing me whole, I rented out the upstairs bedroom. Not to just anyone, a nurse named Maria, 38, single mom with a 6-year-old daughter named Sophia. Maria works nights at the hospital in Dayton. Sophia stays with her grandma during shifts. They moved in last spring. Maria pays on time, keeps to herself mostly, but she leaves little things. A plate of arroz con pollo on the counter some evenings, a drawing from Sophia taped to the fridge, a stick figure family with Mrs. Eleanor labeled in crayon with a big heart. Sophia calls me Abuela Ellie now. I pretend it doesn't make my throat close up. It does. I don't go to church much anymore. Pastor Jim still calls, still invites me to potlucks, but the pew where Tom and I used to sit feels too wide. Mrs. Patel still brings tomatoes from her garden. We sit on the porch sometimes, not talking much, just sharing silence and the creak of wood. She never says, "I told you so." She doesn't have to.
Michael writes letters from prison. Every month or two, a plain white envelope arrives with the correctional facility stamp. I open them because curiosity is stronger than hate now. He writes about the gambling program, how he's working the steps, how he's sorry in ways that sound rehearsed but maybe sincere. He asks about the house, about Scout, about me. He never asks to come home. He knows better. I don't write back. The last one sits unopened in the cookie tin under the sink, next to the flash drive, the old photos, the torn pieces of Sarah's last card. Sarah tried harder at first. Phone calls blocked, texts ignored. Then a visit, unannounced, last summer. She stood on the porch steps in the rain, hair plastered to her face, eyes swollen. "Mom, please," she said through the screen door. "Just 5 minutes." I let her in because I wanted to see if anything real was left in her. She sat at the kitchen table, new table, same spot, and cried. Told me she'd lost her job, moved in with cousins, started therapy. Said Michael manipulated her, pressured her, that she was weak and scared. Said she loved me, said she missed Dad, said she wanted to make it right. I listened, really listened. Then I asked one question. When you packed my clothes that day, when you buckled me in the car and said it was for my own good, did you believe it? Or did you just want the money faster? She couldn't answer, just sobbed harder. I stood up. You made your choice. Live with it. I'm making mine. I walked her to the door, watched her drive away in the same beat-up sedan she'd had before the windfall. Haven't heard from her since. The silence feels cleaner than her tears ever did. I've learned the lesson they taught me too late. Love isn't blind trust. It's not enough on its own. Respect has to be earned, every day in small ways and big ones. Blood doesn't guarantee loyalty. Sometimes it just makes the knife sharper when it comes. Greed doesn't always wear a stranger's face. It can smile at you across the breakfast table, call you mom, promise to take care of you forever. I sign nothing now without reading every line twice. I have my own lawyer on speed dial. Carla still checks in. I keep copies of everything important in a safe deposit box, not under the sink. I set boundaries like fences, high, strong, no gates left open. If someone asks for money, I ask why, and I verify. If they push, I walk away. I forgave them, not for their sake, for mine. Carrying hate is too heavy when you're 73, and the days are shorter. I let it go so I could breathe again. But forgiveness isn't reconciliation, it's release. They don't get back in, not ever. If you're reading this, whether you're a daughter, a son, a parent, someone watching this happen to someone you love, hear me. Hold your family close, but watch closer. Love them fiercely, but protect yourself without apology. Sign nothing without your own lawyer. Not a deed, not a power of attorney, not a check. Because the people who should love you most, the ones who know your soft spots, your history, your heart, can become the ones who hurt you deepest when desperation or greed takes the wheel. I learned that the hard way. Too late for Tom and me. Too late for the family we used to be. But maybe not too late for you. The porch swing creaks outside my window as I write this. Sophia's laughter drifts up from the backyard. She's chasing Scout with a stick, calling him good boy. Maria's car pulls in. Night shift over. Dinner smells like garlic and cumin. Life isn't the same. It never will be, but it's mine again. And that's enough.